One Rental at a Time is a different channel because we bring on experts and millionaires from across the industry. And on Tuesdays, we are lucky enough to talk to a top 1% agent nationally, and her name is Beth Traverso. How you doing, Beth?
Hey, Mike, doing great. So happy to be here always.
Yeah, so I have a question, right? You're in the business, you're helping people buy and sell. I want to talk about what's going on in the market right now because we just hit 7% mortgage rates for the third time. People can go back and watch you and I talk. And I think August of last year, it stopped the market, stop, frozen, crickets. Then the second time we hit it, still active. So I got to ask, what's happening with 7% mortgage rates? Is it slowing down demand at all?
No, it is not slowing
Oh,
demand down at all. It is very different than it was a year ago. I remember it was right during July in 2022 when we just hit that brick wall at 100 miles an hour when the
I
rates
remember.
spiked. And I remember there was a lot of panic at that time from sellers and from buyers. And
Yeah.
what's different now is these buyers that are looking today are not the same buyers that were looking, by and large, are not the same buyers that were looking a year ago. So the buyers that were looking a year ago maybe started their search thinking they were going to have 3 to 4% interest rates somewhere in there.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden it just started climbing, and once it started seeming like it wasn't going to stop and it just kept going higher and higher, it was such a shock to the system that of course everything had to
Yeah.
readjust
Everything had to be
because
readjusted. Yeah.
the cost of purchasing a house was, the monthly cost to a buyer just skyrocketed. A lot of people didn't qualify anymore, so we had to have a lot of conversations with lenders to say, is this buyer still qualified at this price
Yeah.
today? And
Yeah.
now we're not seeing that as much. People have adjusted. Our prices, I think I don't have July, or sorry, I don't have June numbers yet for this greater Seattle area, but I do believe our gap between the year-over-year prices is very
Narrowing.
close to it might not be 100% closed yet, but it's very close, and
Yeah.
I think it's just this lack of inventory. We're down about close to 30% in new
Oh,
listings, and I look every day. I even looked this morning, to see, and like every week I've been seeing about twice as many listings going pending as new listings coming on.
wow.
So it's a wonder there's still any really, when that keeps happening week after week after week. I watch it every week and every day just to see
Mhm.
the bigger trends, but we're just not seeing the new inventory coming on. And so we talked in a previous video how my sub area where I am in the Snoqualmie Valley east of Seattle, that there's just nothing at all between. We have some very low end homes and some very high end homes and almost zero in the middle,
Yeah.
which that's another reason why some buyers are drifting, which we just spoke about in a different video also. Like if there's not much to see, people just figure, well, nothing to see here, and they just go off,
Yeah.
so um
Yeah. The Fed broke housing. It's very, very clear. But the other thing that's interesting, and I didn't really appreciate this until about a month ago, right? For me, I talk about affordability, right? Price, interest rate, wages, that's a very important number for me. But what happened this time, the Fed broke supply because there were so many people that over a 2-year period got, 2, 3, 4% mortgages that want to move, but the numbers don't work, right? They can't get the extra bedroom. They can't get the newer home. They can't get the slightly better area because not only are they paying an extra 100 grand, but their interest rate goes from 3 to 7.
mhm.
And it's like, nope, not doing that, honey. We're staying put.
Yeah, I'm seeing that. And then another one is the downsizers, where some people want to downsize, but they can't because, I mean, they could, but why? If you're going
Why?
to
Why?
pay
Yeah.
more for a smaller house, that's kind of the opposite of what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
So trying to figure out how to make that work. And sometimes it involves moving to another area or a different type of housing, a condo versus house or things like that. And you're right, it's the supply that was disrupted. And I'm not sure if that was their intention. I don't know. But
I think their intention was to destroy transactions. And
yeah.
I think the spillover was the shock. This supply thing is a real deal. I don't think many people saw this coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the way people's minds automatically went was, well, buyers aren't going to buy with the
Right.
higher rates. And
Yeah.
that
And they
is
thought
true for
inventory would
some.
stack. Right.
Yeah, that is because we've seen that in the past where inventory
Yeah.
would start to stack. And I remember back in 2019, I'm just going off my memory, which is not always
Sure.
the best, but I know
Mhm.
rates went up in the
Yeah.
summer of 2019 to, I think, around 5 or somewhere, maybe where it peaked. And I remember at that time, inventory did stack and we had high inventory, comparatively speaking,
Sure.
much higher than we've had in the last several years since. But, and it was because of those, it was just high enough that
Yeah.
people were still listing, but the buyers weren't buying. And then it started to stack and then it did correct some. And then 2020 happened. And then just, what happened after that, just boom. So
Yeah.
then the rates
Off
went
to the
down, down,
races.
down. Yeah. So off to the races, and we've just been racing ever since, but it's been a bit of a whiplash with all of this past year or so.
Yeah. So I don't think so. It's really interesting when you think about mortgage rates now. 7% not really affecting demand because I agree with you. The buyers that are buying today expect it or they're about 6.5, 7. They're not expecting 3. So they're prepared for it and approved for it. It's not
Mhm.
shocking.
Yeah.
The supply's not coming, and I got bad news for you if you're a real estate agent. It's not coming next year either, right? We need multiple years to stack up before we get life events that will cause people to move, at least in great numbers. Um, but when does this unlock? I mean, if we go from 7 to 8, I think we might have last summer where things just stop. But if we go from 7 to 6, my fear is we get 2022, April and May again, which was not a great time.
Right.
So what do you think of that? What do you think of 8 and 6?
Well, 8% definitely will, because we're in my area, we're in an area, the time of the year that's typically slows down.
Right.
So if rates, but we're not really seeing that this year because of what we just talked about. But I think if it went to 8, it would slow things down.
Yeah.
Definitely. I don't know that it would be, it would definitely have an impact. Would it be the same level of shock to the system as last year?
Maybe not, but
Maybe not, but it would definitely slow things down quite a bit. It would slam the brakes on a lot.
Mhm.
Um, and I do believe that if we went to 6, that, which I do believe it will at some point,
Sure.
and who knows, but sometime in the next 6 to 12 months, maybe it might get down to 6. But I think that will definitely bring a lot of, because we got a lot of buyers now at 7.
Yeah,
We're not seeing the slowdown. I have not seen it. And I think it's just because, like, we've just been hammering on, is just the fact that when there's nothing for sale, something good comes up for sale.
yeah.
The buyer, I'm talking to a lot of buyers right now where they aren't really grumbling much about the interest rate because everyone has accepted it at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
They just want to move. They want to buy their first house. They want to buy their next house. They're relocating. Some
Mhm.
life event happened. Their life is more important than whatever interest rate. They're just trying to figure out, how can I make this interest rate work for what our situation is right now? And
Yeah,
there's nothing for sale. So something good comes up, they're going to jump on it. And I've been
I
seeing
agree.
that consistently. So
Yeah.
it still is possible to overprice. It still is possible to not prepare your listing properly. It's not like anything goes. The fundamentals still matter. But um
Yeah.
but yeah, I honestly think, it's not a bad time to be a seller right now with the buyers out there eager for inventory.
Yeah, if you've got something in the middle, it may never have been easier to sell. I mean, again, if you have
Yeah.
nothing, like if you have manufactured homes at 3.25 and your next listing is 1.9,
Yeah.
that's a rather large gap.
I know. So it's kind of mind-boggling. So um and I'm trying to think back when I've seen that much gap and
I've
that
not
little
seen it.
inventory, and I'm kind of scratching my head, like, I don't know that I've seen that. And this has been continuing for weeks too. It's not just
Yeah.
been just like a few days and then another listing comes on. It's just we're not seeing the new listings come on. So what I'm seeing, because I'm in a small area, is people just tend to branch out to bigger, wider areas just to find anything. So, and I don't think that's going to change. If we went up to 8%, it might thin it down some, but I think there's still going to be buyers out there that it will be buying. Will it have an impact? Yes. Will it be the screeching halt and the hitting the wall at 100 miles an hour we had a year ago? I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah. Again, the other thing I keep thinking, I'm just focused on supply. I think 8 definitely dense demand. But again, if you're getting 5 offers and you go to 2, do you really care? Not sure.
Yeah.
My biggest fear is we drift to 6% and no inventory comes. That is a legit fear. Like
Yeah.
if we see 6% August, September, October, even though that's the slow season, I don't have a good feeling.
And I honestly, Mike, I think that that scenario is probably more likely than the 8% scenario.
I would agree with that. I would agree.
So I fully expect that that probably is going to come. I don't pretend to be smarter than anybody else as far as predicting anything, but I do believe that that's coming. And I do believe that the inventory is not going to match.
No.
I'm most interested to see what's going to happen in our busy time in the Seattle area, which is after the new year.
Yeah,
Because
January, right?
generally the inventory just does kind of bump along and then drop for us toward the end of the year. So if we're going to have even less, what would that look like for one thing? How do you go from nothing to less nothing? I don't know.
Nothing to less than nothing.
How do you go negative inventory? How does that happen? And then I mean, but there's always going to be some. I don't want to discourage people too much, but
it will be a good time to be a seller. That's for sure.
Yeah. If you need to sell something, that might be a time, So but if you're selling to buy, then you're gonna have to be very strategic about it. So that I want to so I'll finish that one thought. Sometimes I jump around my thoughts a little too much, but if we get into the early part of next year with no inventory and we end up getting to 6% interest rate or somewhere high 5, something like that, it is going to be like a match to the gasoline on the fire. I'll use that analogy. So I think that would happen. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting time. So, but I'm ready for it. I'll buckle up. If we get through what we did in the first half of 2022,
you're ready
for anything.
You know how to play. You know how to play the game at that point.
Yeah. One other quick thing I want to say before we go is that we are still, like me and my team members, getting opportunities. Even in this market, there are certain listings that have some market time still.
Oh, okay.
So I don't want to make it sound like everything is selling, because we've helped 2 buyers in the last month get contingent offers accepted, meaning they had to sell their house to buy the next one.
Nice.
It's very rare for that to happen. We've done it twice. One was somebody buying new construction. They're more open to the contingent sale, meaning you have to sell your house to buy the new one. So just to be clear about that. But I had another one where it was just a house that had been on the market at maybe priced a little on the higher optimistic side of things, maybe. And their house that they were selling was ready to go. So we could say, hey, we've got photos. We're going to price it at this price. Here's what the others are selling for. We're pricing a little under that. And here's every reason why you could expect that this house is going to sell and your house will close, Mr. Seller. And it worked. So,
nice.
I'm saying, like, there's opportunities out there for, if you just look for those, turn over some of the rocks that you might be inclined to skip past.
Yeah,
so
I love that.
I want to try to give people a little bit of encouragement too, and some hope. There's still
it's always worth the effort. It's always worth the effort. It just takes time. This is numbers game. If somebody wanted to buy or sell in King County, or better yet, get a referral from a top agent around the country, how do they reach out to you?
Yeah, so I'm at BethTraversogroup.com, or you can find me on Facebook or Instagram at Beth Traverso.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.